Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Post-Conference Presser for Anfield Index. It wasn't the normal 9 a.m. or so start up at the AXA. It was 11 o'clock for Arne's slot, still early in the morning, still fully focused on his preparation for this semi-final, isn't it? Spurs away tomorrow night, 8 p.m. kickoff. It's a weird one, isn't it, people? And it's Dave Davies coming to you from a fucking freeze in Edinburgh. You've probably seen in the UK, the cold snap has hit wherever you are in the world. If you're enjoying some warmth, all the best to you, because we're really not across the UK. We know how the UK grounds to a halt with a little bit of sleet, snow, all those types of things as well. Now, a couple of things we want to get into. We'll do the normal people. So we'll talk about Arne's slot. We'll talk about his press conference. We'll talk about the questions. We'll talk about the answers. We'll talk about Trent, because that came up. We'll talk about the January window. We'll even talk about that game. Still from Sunday. Still got that feeling. We've got to get past it, but there is still that bit of annoyance, isn't there? So we'll talk about that game. The threats Spurs bring, and then the predicted lineup, score and scorer. But first of all, let's get into the questions and the answers that Arne Slot gave. Some good questions, I thought, this time. No moronic questions like there was in the previous one, which was pleased to see. Video O'Connor was back from Sky. They had a bit of a joke about him being off and maybe for his counterpart, shall we say, last time. But the first question he was asked was about the two-legged semi-final and the fact that there are a month apart, how you prepare for it and how you go into it. He said, I think what we expect is that we've got two teams of such a clear playing style, and that's what people expect to see. Both teams will try and force their identity to each other. They show how good they are by scoring 3 against us. It should be a good game. It should be, to be fair. If you were a neutral, you'd expect goals because Tottenham score them in abundance. They give up chance in abundance. Liverpool are the top scorers in the Premier League. They've not always how we want to, don't get me wrong, but there's been a lot of exciting games, I think it's fair to say, for Liverpool recently, isn't there? So, yeah, I think it's a good one for the neutral. I don't know, for us. We'll get into it a bit more because I've got some pretty strong thoughts on how things will work. And this was the next question he was asked about, will you rotate like you've done in the Carabao Cup recently? If you look at the lineups we made this season, so much goes into it. The opponent, where are my players? So it's always a decision made in our opinion. What is the best lineup for tomorrow? In my opinion, sometimes it can be the players that don't start a lot, but there is a lot to consider. Last time against Southampton, we probably expected it. He was quite honest and saying, yeah, these players, players rotate, etc. And he was even asked last time against Southampton in the previous round, in the quarters, Kelleher, yes, he'll start. He didn't confirm Kelleher will start. He was sort of determined not to give that away. I just get the feeling in this one is going to be a pretty strong, if not the strongest lineup for Liverpool. Now, you will have your opinion on that like me. To me, in terms of importance of games, I'm already looking ahead to Nottingham Forest in a week's time. That is a massive, massive game. There's no two ways about it. Before then, Accrington Stanley, with the greatest respect, I don't think many people care. Everyone wants to see full rotation. In this one, I think in terms of it's who maybe needs a game and who can benefit from a certain game as well. So you'd think the Endo, the Quansers, the Elliots, etc. But genuinely, based on what he said in this one, I do have a slight fear, a slight suspicion that it is going to be a pretty strong team coming to the party, if not the strongest lineup. That is not ideal for me, but I know some people will be saying, well, it's a semi-final. We're right near Wembley, strongest team and all that. And I get that. I just still believe there's bigger fish to fry and there's bigger things coming up. But we'll see, obviously. And I'll give my predicted lineup on that. He was then asked, unsurprisingly, about contracts and Trent specifically and his performance. He said, well, we were all disappointed, not just Trent, but the way we played for the first half of the result. Parts of our game we were happy with, other parts of our game we couldn't be happy with. There was not only Trent that had more things that they could have done better. Trent didn't play his best game. I said this already. He's played so many good games for this club. And like others, it wasn't their best game for this club, but we pick it up and we start training again today. These players that know if you play 50 to 60 games and how difficult it is to have your best performance game after game, maybe we should highlight more when these players do have their best performances and they play every day or every 3 days, and have such a good game. Apart from this game, maybe again, it's not the best. It was an eventful game, though, for Liverpool. I got many text messages saying afterwards, what a game it was. Both teams in the last 10 minutes were trying their best for a win. It was definitely an interesting game to watch. Couple of things to pick apart with this. And I thought he answered the Trent question here very, very well, which in a great way you have come to expect from Arne Slot, the consideration, sort of that poise that he has. What else is he supposed to say? He has to defend the player. And it's right that he defends the player publicly because he's going to want to give Trent confidence. There might be a bit of him that is thinking, yeah, he was horrific. Yeah, if Bradley, no doubt, was fit, I would have hooked him earlier. Yeah, he could have done a lot better with the goals. And it's interesting that he talked about showing him the clips. He's probably said to Trent, look, this is really, really poor in certain situations. There's no two ways about it. But what else is Arne Slot supposed to do? And he is right to defend the pen. I like that he came out and said, well, hold on, let's not just forget about all the good performances Trent Alexander-Arnold's had recently. We have seen him peppered down that side, like the Chelsea game, and play brilliantly. So, it needs balance at the same time. I have got a few things that around the contract that are bugging me, like it will be bugging you, I've no doubt at all. But again, the best way of turning around a bad performance is putting in a good performance, isn't it? And I may be wrong on this. Obviously, we'll find out. I think Trent might start against Spurs. I'm going early a bit with the lineup, but with Conor Bradley coming in a bit, I would not be surprised. I do think Trent will start in this one. So we will see what happens there. He was also asked about social media posts and, the effect they have, they're on levels, and, whether they're discussing that with your team. He said, I'm not having that debate with my players. I talk to my players, and if there's anything worrying them, then they share with me. And that's not happened until now. What I do with the players is show them what we could have done better against United, what we did well against United, as we created some very good chances. And the mentality we showed after being 1-0 down, I and every fan likes to see. I'm not focused on social media posts as you have no life. Every second of the day, people will talk about Liverpool. I agree with this wholeheartedly. I mean, what else is he supposed to say? I'm sure you have seen this clip, the one of Carragher talking contracts, and Mo Salah melted down Twitter X, whatever you call it, last night, didn't he, when he tweeted that? I'm starting to think you're obsessed with me. I mean, the distraction for fans is different. What I've not liked recently is we seem to have blurred the line a little bit on church and state, because things that go off the field, no, it's a double off there, have always sort of been separate for what happens in the stadium. And I just felt on Sunday, you could actually hear it. Now, Trent was having a stinker, don't get me wrong, but you could hear the murmurings, you could hear the chants from the stand, couldn't you, about get him off, he doesn't care, all those types of things at the moment. First time, I think, we've seen that blurring of church and state, and it's starting to affect things in the stadium for the first time. There is a bit of a worry for that to me. And ultimately, for these contract questions, the easiest way to solve them is for a resolution one way or the other. A resolution where Salah, Virgil, something like that get done. Can you imagine what an erotic day that would be if those get announced? And then on the other side, if Trent is going to go to Real Madrid, I don't know that. No one really knows that just now. Maybe if that got answered quite quickly, we could just put all this to bed, because I just don't like the fact that we're starting to see that distraction in the stadium. And listen, Mo Salah has earned the right to do what he wants, because whatever he says in the interviews, his numbers are insane. Virgil van Dijk, they're doing it differently from each other. They're different characters. They both earn the right to do it exactly how they want, regardless of what Carragher, Scott, whoever says about it. But do you know what stops all these questions? Fucking renewals. Simple as that. Let's see what happens. Slot was also asked about Cody Gakpo and how well he's doing on the left-hand side. I thought he gave a great answer to this. Said a lot, and you maybe not seen it, I've said already a few times how much focus is on Mo at the moment. If you combine Lucho and Cody, they come close to his numbers. It's to maybe Mo's advantage that Federico isn't always available, but I think our left wing position comes close to the numbers Mo has. Part of it is the players, but part of it is also the playing style. We score a lot of goals, and that is what we're doing well at the moment. Flying Cody Gakpo. Did you see that thing on Sky Sports News? You may have missed it this morning, that goals since late October. Mo Salah's top of the table. Isaac's being, eulogized as well. Cody Gakpo's only 4 behind Mo Salah. He has been absolutely flying in terms of goals. I'm not always thinking he's played sensationally each week, but he's got big goals at big times. And Slot's right. Him and Diaz combined, there may be moments where one's in form, one's slightly off. As long as just one of them is there, and you put the two together and you get a Mo Salah, that is what we are after, isn't it? So there's plenty to like about Cody Gakpo, just quietly going about his business at the moment. This player was asked about, Dominic Szoboszlai. Oh God, we missed him. We missed him so badly on Sunday, didn't we? And that energy. So what On the Slot said, he wasn't in yesterday. Hopefully he's in today. I don't think or doubt he'll be fit enough to start if he is. And again, for team news, he wouldn't reveal anything about Kelleher on whether he would start or not. Szoboszlai. For me, I am just focusing now on Dominic Szoboszlai being available for Nottingham Forest. That is the focus for me. No risk should be taken in this one. Definitely no risk whatsoever. I don't want any of them really in the squad for Accrington Stanley. But if there's any doubt at all, don't give him any minutes against Spurs, because it's all about that Forest game. And also the hope, and it's touch wood, you never know how it plays out. He was asked about McAllister, we'll come on to that. But maybe this strange little break that Szoboszlai's having could be massively beneficial to him, because he didn't play against West Ham. He didn't play against United. He has had a bit of a break. McAllister, maybe it just might revitalise Dominic Szoboszlai. And please, as I'm saying this, Dominic Szoboszlai does not need revitalising. He's been brilliant recently when he's played. It's more about in terms of being refreshed, saving those legs to go again in the business end, the months of the season. So that is the hope. It will bear fruit that way, in a weird and strange way. Transfers. He was asked about January. He was asked about transfers by James Pearce. Now, people always interpret this in a weird way. So I'm just going to play the clip so you can have a listen, see exactly what the question was asked, what the answer was given, and then make your own interpretation from there.
With the window being open, when you look at the depth you've got, do you think there's enough there to last the pace this season, or do you think anything needs to be added to the squad in this window?
Would be a bit weird if I said during the summer break that we are very happy with the team, and I would tell you something completely different now. But you always look at the market. This club has always looked at the market. I think we did this with the goalkeeper we don't even have at the moment. If there is a chance in the market, this club always tries to bring that chance in. But the team is in a good place. Unfortunately, Joe Gomez is injured. That means we go from 4 centre backs back to 3. Sorry, but he will be back in a few weeks. So very happy with the team, and I think they deserved that trust from the club and from me. If you look at the performances they brought in the last half of the season.
Yeah, I think you could see it differently. That there's always an opportunity and things might crop up, as you say, so you can't rule anything out completely. However, let's be honest, it's one of those where we're 90% certain no business is getting done in terms of incomings. There may be possible outgoings, mainly you'd think for loans for younger players. I just think that you've seen recently, it's okay to say this, and this is not a criticism of Arne Slot whatsoever. Arne Slot doesn't trust some members of his squad. I think that's clear to see. I mean, you even heard there a little bit of a Freudian slip. He corrected himself, didn't he, when he said, oh, with Gomez out, we've only got three centre-backs. I think it's quite clear that Jarell Quansah does not have the trust of Arne Slot. Ibu, unbelievable centre-back. What a season he's had. What was he fully fit on Sunday? Absolutely not. You could see that. He was blowing out his arse after about an hour or so. It wasn't quite his flowing best. For obvious reasons, he's had a big injury and he's come back from it. So even then, Jarell Quansah doesn't get the nod. Endo. I actually think Endo could have been so useful on Sunday. When he makes that double sub of Jota and Nunes, it goes 1-1 and he's still got, and I bet if he looks back, I think, balls, I shouldn't have done that. I should have brought Jota on to play in the middle and occupy those three centre halves. And I should have brought Endo on just because we were losing the midfield battle. We were getting outfought and outworked at times. And I do think if he looks back, he will think, yeah, I should have done that. But those are just players that he clearly, whatever anyone thinks, the evidence is there, doesn't trust. And a part to me is like, it's great seeing you have a squad, but if he doesn't trust Endo, he doesn't trust Quansah, and there's probably a few others like Elliott you can make a case for as well. Go and get another midfielder. By the way, and I hate singling players out, and it's not about, but the fullbacks were both stinking. We're all talking about Trent. Andy Robertson had a bad game again on Sunday, and he is a Liverpool legend. He has, the value and all that. We've said that many a time, but can you just imagine the boost the left back would give? Honestly, I think it would just take everything up a level. I think the fans, the team would benefit from it as well, just a bit of fresh blood. Is it going to happen? Absolutely not, personally, but we'll have to see. And the final two questions, he was asked about Alexis McAllister and whether he's benefiting from the rest. And they said, no, because he was outstanding before. I can't come up with a poor performance in that time for him. He's so involved in every game. It's so important defensively in bringing the ball to these players that he does. Every player benefits in the long term from having a break, but I didn't think his performances were better now because of this break. Hopefully, he gets even better in February and March with the performances too. Again, I think he answers this in the right way. I don't think it's fully truthful. I think he'll look and think, yeah, McAllister has benefited from that little enforced break. And there's been reasons to that. He's been carrying that abductor strain, hasn't he, in Argentine duty for quite a while. There's been a few where you've just thought, looks a bit tired playing all these minutes. So actually, you have to, with that enforced break because of the suspension postponement, he has been brilliant. And I mean brilliant in every game afterwards. And I thought he was brilliant against United. He was one of the two for me with Van Dijk that came away with serious pass mark. So whether Slot agrees with it, or I think he does, it's just there's no other way for him to answer that question at all. And hopefully you see a little benefit with Szoboszlai as well. And then the final question, the press conference, which I thought was a good one, said, well, last season you were in all four competitions and then it caught up with you and maybe proved a step too far. Has there been any lessons learned from this? And he said, it's very difficult for me to compare because I wasn't here. Until now, though, we haven't stolen 1 point. They were all fully deserved. In some moments, we deserve even more, and that is the best forecast you can have. I don't know how that was last season. If we may be lucky in moments, I don't know. This season, all the points were fully deserved and nearly all the players are fit at the moment. If Trent doesn't play well, then you will tell me that's the contract situation. But I think it's more about the game plan when we drop points rather than too many games or by being distracted. Again, I don't think there's another way you can answer this because you can't go, yeah, well, there's a risk and all. He's not going to say that. However, I do pray we've learned the lessons from last season because all those extra minutes playing so many first teamers in the Carabao Cup. I mean, the final was insane, but we won it with half a leg. Let's be honest, we won it with kids on the pitch. People totally spent like Endo, Diaz and all those. This season, some people will argue, yes, you should put out the strongest team against Spurs because you're in the semi-final. And I can understand that argument. How bad is it, though, if someone gets injured in a Carabao Cup game still, or a knock or a strain or something like that? Touch wood here that they won't. I think we've got a strong enough squad to rest all our major players, and we should be looking at the bigger things. There's no problem saying that at all. I mean, look at that league table. It is highly erotic just taking a quick glance over that. 6 points clear, game in hand. What are we wanting to risk for any cup competitions? I genuinely mean that. It's second string for me against Spurs. It really is. And also against Accrington Stanley, it's Carroll from the canteen in midfield, you know, Doc Jonathan Power in there. It's just being smart for me. I just get the worry, though, or the feeling. And listen, let's hope it doesn't bear fruit, and it's pointless to say this eventually, but I think you're going to see a strong lineup against Spurs tomorrow. So that was the questions and answers that he gave. And I mean, this last one, 2-2 at home. What are the clues you can take from this, or the lessons, if you want to call it that? Complacency. I think you have to say there was a bit of that in the players' minds. I said in the last pod, let's not get carried away. Just forget the league table. It means nothing. Last season, we had, 34 shots it was, and it was 0-0. That could happen again. This time, I thought there was complacency from that team. We gave up that first half. We should have been after them from the off. And there were minutes in this game where you saw, well, we turned it on, and we turned it from 1-0 down to 2-1 up quite quickly. The just wasn't maintained for long periods, even though, as the stats tell you, we had the better chance. And probably with these chances, should have won. But I know people are going to talk quite rightly about that Maguire one there at the same time. The other things from United, there are now Trent questions galore, and quite rightly. I don't think we can now afford this continued period of silence from Trent Alexander-Arnold, because the separation of church and state has now stopped. The off-the-field questions have now made their way into Anfield. You could hear it from the crowd. You could hear people shouting out at that stadium, he doesn't want to play. No, you heard reporters talking about it too. There is not the separation we want. And all this talk recently has been about, well, it's okay because, you know, whatever's happening off the field, they're turning up, they're doing the business on it. There's no two ways about it. That's not the case at the moment. That is really not the case, which is a huge worry. So even if Trent now comes out and says, listen, I'm moving to Real Madrid, I think we could just put things to bed. But just to be clear, ultimately, as well on this Trent question, if he turns in another performance like United, dropped, end of story, there needs to be, as much as Slot's having that questions about, or sorry, that chat with the clips, as he said, and talking to him about performance, you can question his attitude after that. You can question his work rate after that. You can question a lot of things about Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, the easiest way for him to dispel any of that is to go and play brilliantly in whoever the next game's against. And the other way for him to dispel any of that, or just put things to bed, is to come out. And I genuinely think we are at this stage right now. It would just benefit everyone because of what's happening. And the final sort of clue or lesson you took from United, anyone who's been in any doubt, how important is Dominic Szoboszlai? How important is he to the system, the energy, the pressing, the recovery runs? And as we've seen recently, started to chip in with goals and assists, big moments at key times. Curtis Jones, and by the way, this nonsense that Curtis Jones is a sensational player. He has some unbelievable attributes. He just had a stinker on Sunday. It happens to the best players. And I think people are right with the element of sometimes he does hold on to the ball too long at his worst. At his best, he's a key player for Liverpool. So let's not start twisting that Curtis Jones is anything but a key player. However, it could have changed. It's if buts or maybes in it, but Szoboszlai could have changed the game. And I think the importance of him has just been reiterated more than anything. Spurs, though, I mean, they're the weirdest team in the Premier League. They're the second highest scorers. They've got 42 goals. They bring threats. They ship a lot as well. I mean, they're on a stinking run of form. They go ahead early against Newcastle, don't they? But could have conceded even more. Let's not pretend. When you talk about their players, there are threats. There are goals. They scored 3 against us in that recent game. Dominic Solanke's in form. Former player, love to get another one against his. Brennan Johnson scoring. Son, goal and assist. Kulusevski is having a good season. So the threats are there. I don't think for 1 second anyone believes we're keeping a clean sheet in this. Maybe you do, but I don't think we are. It's just the other end, isn't it? Because you suspect, I'm guessing still, Romero, Van de Ven out. And if you look at the centre halves they played against Newcastle, Jed Spence and Archie Gray, who's shows as a midfielder, but it says everything that's what they bought him as, but they're having to use him at centre-back. Dragusin went off ill. I mean, he's having a stinker recently as well, isn't he? You won't be surprised if he's back for us. But again, I don't expect us to keep a clean sheet, but I don't expect us to zero out in this game as well, because Tottenham are a fascinating team to watch. Stupid, kamikaze, you'd say at times. They give up chances, they score goals. So the one thing you're expecting in terms of threats and how this will pan out, there's no way this is finishing goalless, is there? Which brings us to us and the expected lineup for us. I mean, let me be honest. I think it's going to be pretty full strength. I would like Kelleher, Bradley, Quansah, Endo at centre-back I'd like again. I'd like Tsimikas at left-back. I'd like Morton, Elliott in the middle with Curtis Jones. I would like Jota on the left, Núñez up top, and Chiesa on the right. That is what I would like. I don't think we're going to get that. I think you're going to get largely a full-strength team with the standard slot, 1 or 2 changes. Maybe it's Tsimikas instead of Robertson for me. That might be the change from the standard, if that makes sense. But annoyingly, I do think whether you might not care about this, you might think, now it's a cup, shut up, it's a semi-final and all that. But I think you're going to see a pretty strong Liverpool team. Score 3-2. 3-2. And whilst I don't, as I said, people I'd love to be left out the squad, Gravenberch, Van Dijk, Salah, I'd love them to be nowhere near this. I just get a feeling by the nature of the way Slot answered in this press conference, you are going to see them. So 3-2, Mo Salah on the score sheet. I hope I'm wrong, because I hope Salah is nowhere near it, but we will have to see, won't we? There we go. We've got to get over United. We've got to get into the Carabao. Some of you won't be into the Carabao, whatever. Some of you will be thinking rest player. Some of you will be thinking trophy. It's different for each person. I get it. But it is the next game. We'll see how everything unfolds. But on Tuesday, the 7th of Jan, that was another post-conference presser for Anfield Index.